Hey there, I'm Lee Rowley, and this is Lee After Dark. Why? Because there's more to being a business leader than just business. Each episode, one brave entrepreneur ejects the elevator pitch and just gets real with us. Today, I am very happy to welcome Kasen James. Kasen, how are you, my friend?
I am fantastic. It's a fantastic Friday. How are you doing, Lee?
Oh, I couldn't be better. So that's we talked about earlier. I've got my black coffee and my signature sriracha mug. It's Friday. I'm talking to people and just being social. So can't complain about that.
So if you put your coffee in a sriracha mug, does that automatically make it hot coffee?
Hmm.
Uh,
Absolutely. All right. Yes. Score one before we even kick this thing off. All right. You know the rules, which are pretty simple. For the next 20 minutes, we can talk about anything in the world you want except for your business. Should you succeed, you get 5 minutes at the end to pitch up a storm. But first, we got to get through the personal part. So, you ready to play Lee After Dark?
I am so ready.
All right. Let me start a timer over here to keep us honest. And question is, as it always is, what the heck do you want to get into for the next 20 minutes?
uh, I've really been on a podcast binge. So
Ah,
tell me some of your favorite podcasts that inspire this one.
I'm probably going to get crucified for this, but I do not really listen to a whole lot of podcasts. In fact, what inspired this was when I started stepping out as what I do. I did 40 podcast interviews in 30 days. And I get so sick of hearing myself talk about the same things over and over again that I got this. I cooked up this idea of bringing people on who usually are used to talking about what they do, like I am, and then telling them that they can and just see what happens. I'll catch a podcast episode every once in a while. Gabrielle Bernstein's is one of my favorites, and then we've got Brian Brody is for a long time doing the Brian Brody show, which was a live cast. I don't know if he's still doing that, but that's one of my favorites too. He's a good friend of mine and has some interesting ideas on life, philosophy, stoicism, you name it.
Right on.
Yeah. How about you?
I have been recently really into this one called Spiritual Shit by Aaliyah Lovely. Um, and she has a really beautiful feminine take on the world, but she talks about everything from like aliens to sound healing, to Egypt to shamanism. And then I've recently been, I think, listening to like the masculine equivalent of that, which is by Aubrey Marcus, who's the founder of On It. But he gets into a lot of different things, and I was just finishing one this morning about Viking magic and like rune language and how I guess they're talking about the the sound of foot somehow it equates with like warrior frequencies. So in Nordic culture, when people want to invoke the warrior spirit within themselves, they just chant foot foot foot. And I thought that was really interesting because I've never really dug into like runes and like that kind of magic.
Okay.
I, they were also saying that a lot of that sound has translated to the English language. So like what used to mean, or like the word "fey" in Nordic has now translated to "fee" in English. So there's like just a lot of nuances, but we get some of the similar tones, and that's really fascinating to me because I'm passionate about music. And something that got me onto my podcast binge was actually um, I've kind of gone on this media diet the last couple years of realizing that Gen Z and millennials, we were just, I hate to say it, but we're kind of the product of like trash food for the brain.
I can't even imagine. Yeah. I wonder sometimes.
Yeah, and like so I've just been sort of reprogramming my thoughts with listening to other people's thoughts and being a little bit more specific about the content that I've been consuming. So it's, and it is interesting to to be alive in this generation and see what people constantly recycle in terms of what they're consuming. Like we say food for thought, but a lot of the media really is food for thought.
Right, fast food for thought as it is.
Yeah.
I've often wondered that, and I don't know why it's never occurred to me to reach out about that. But since we're having this discussion anyway, I grew up in the '80s, and in the country at that. So we had three channels on TV sometimes. You might get like a fourth one if the wind was blowing just in the right. If the whole atmosphere aligned on a Saturday night, you could catch, the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, Saturday night's main event on this, fourth channel that was there sometimes and not there other times. And was that it? That was it. You're stuck with that. That was your entertainment. And I look now at, of course, we've Fire Sticks, we have Hulu and Netflix and Amazon Prime and all that. And it's like we're constantly saying there's nothing to watch because of that overchoice. Psychologists talk about this endlessly. How we're so subject to overchoice now, and to somebody who's a couple generations younger, that has to seem normal. And I wonder what that looks like from somebody who's never sit there with three channels and that's it.
No, I 100% agree, and I think I've actually experienced some decision making anxiety in and of it myself because I realize like there's so many things I want to pick, and how do I pick the right one? So it's totally the inverse of how it used to be, where it's like you didn't have enough options. It was like let's just pick A and go with it, right?
Right. It's that way in every aspect of life too. 100 years ago, the number of options you would have for a profession were a heck of a lot more limited than they are today. If you told somebody 100 years ago you could be anything you want to be, that would have rang hollow. And today it's not that far from true. There's more ways to make money than there are people to make it. So, now that it is true, but again, 100 years ago, even 50 years ago, that wasn't the case. You were pretty much stuck with what you did.
What is the most obscure or weirdest profession that you've heard of so far?
Ooh, okay.
I'll go first. I think
Okay.
it's the influencer on Instagram that smashes her face into bread for a living.
I can't even come close to that. Okay. To what end?
Like she has probably 1 million followers at this point. She just posts videos of herself smashing her face into different loaves of bread.
Okay. This is there was a guy for a while who was doing butt art. I don't know sure if he's still around, or there's probably clones now. There's probably butt clones everywhere. But that's basically what he would do. He would set in a tray of paint, and he's got his canvas over there, and then all the butt dangly bits and all, just see what kind of shapes we can make on the canvas, and then just what is this World Cup?
Pretty much. Well, I hope for his sake that his art doesn't stink.
Oh, that's two. Wonderful. All right. Well, before we get too far into this, I do want to acknowledge that I did remember that you have a guitar there somewhere off camera.
Yes.
So we got to get into that. So let's go ahead and bring that into the mix, just for the heck of it. And you haven't specified whether this is acoustic, electric, air, what we're in for. So we're just gonna. Oh, that's a beauty.
It is. It's a Martin. My parents got it for me when I was 13. It's my pride and joy.
Nice. Love the top on that.
Thank you.
All right. Well, don't keep us in suspense. Come on, let's hear how it sounds. Shit sounds. Blah, blah, blah.
So I like to intro my songs a little bit before I play. And I know that we share, I think, a similar passion in business, the cannabis industry.
Mhm.
So this song is called The Fire. And I wrote it a couple years ago. I like to say that it's about the love of my life. And I hope that your fans enjoy this as much as I enjoyed writing it.
Oh, wonderful. And this is totally impromptu. We had no idea this was going to happen here on Lee After Dark. Hit it.
And it is after dark. And I met her on the schoolyard when I was 16. Purple in her hair and eyes so green. I said, hey, nice to meet you. What's your name? She said Sativa, but you can call me Mary Jane. I swear that pretty woman had me from the first sight. One kiss had me touching the sky. I pressed her cherry lips to mine. That's when I felt the fire for the first time. She was a flower child, a tree loving, a little boy, unlike any other girl I met in the halls. I just couldn't wait to hit a teenage blue dream. All the boys from class already passed around. When she got to me, she took my breath away along with my virginity. I swear that pretty woman had me from the first sight. One kiss had me touching the sky. Innocence was lost that night. Oh, and I felt the fire for the first time. The only one who's always been there for me, who kept me lifted through the pain and anxiety of my college years when all my homies seemed to disappear. She kept me from being lonely, set my heart ablaze for the rest of my days. I just wanna spend forever getting lost in her haze. Got my head in the clouds, got me down on one knee asking, hey Mary, wanna marry me? I swear that pretty woman had me from the first sight. One kiss had me touching the sky. And singing, I believe I can fly. That's when I felt the fire. I swear that pretty woman had me from the first sight. One kiss had me touching the sky. That's when I found the love of my life. Oh, when I felt the fire for the first time.
I dig it.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. I wish I had my soundboard and stuff hooked up. I keep saying I'm going to do this, and I forget, so that I can have the applause and all that. But totally dig it. Y'all heard it here first. That was fantastic.
It was fire, right?
Yeah, that was absolute fire. So, how long have you been singing? How long have you been musically? Tell me how the process goes.
I have been playing music probably since before I was ever conceived. My mom actually grew up a classical musician. She played cello most of her life. She was a trained opera singer. So it's in my blood. I started playing music and like studying when I was 6. She actually got me started in violin, and I'd say that that's probably where a lot of my musicianship comes from. I found songwriting when I was 12, 13. I was like going through my bully years, in middle school, and I just needed an outlet. And ever since then, I've really just been honing my craft. I would say the last few years, specifically, I went on a couple of songwriting retreats, and I just realized like this is my magic. This is the thing this is like my superpower.
Sure.
And so I love it, and I love sharing my gift with the world. So I'm really honored to be able to share this with your fans here.
That's really cool. That's really cool. You just never know what's going to come up here. It's that's the great thing of having to be a free for all. And I love being able to see people who are like willing to step out there and say, yeah, sure, why not? We'll do that. Why the heck not do that on there? And it was beautiful. Didn't miss a beat. So I really appreciate you you sharing that for us. And we've got a few minutes left here before we move on to the next part. Anything else on your heart that you want to talk about today?
Uh, I'm not really sure, to be perfectly honest with you.
Okay. Well, I don't know. That's no worries at all. So let's circle back to our Starbucks addictions.
Okay.
And whatnot here. So I know before we started here, we were talking about coffee and my derision for anything other than coffee in my coffee, and then the Starbucks thing. And you said that was kind of your creative space.
Absolutely. I like still to this day I have such nostalgia and like love for coffee shops, and I recently moved to Tempe, Arizona, which so I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area my entire life, and
Mm.
having lived there during COVID and experiencing the California shutdown, and then just crossing like one state over and realizing that state by state the country has been dealing with it very differently.
Mhm.
Like now I can actually walk down the block and go to a new coffee shop and I'm like back in my happy space. But yeah, it was interesting to realize how much Starbucks had become part of our everyday. It's kind of like the Facebook of coffee, I think. We're addicted to it without realizing it, and if we
Sure.
don't get to post our like weekly Starbucks, like it didn't happen. So um yeah, it's I guess that was kind of an interesting shift for me. Like I would go and I would just watch people. I love people watching. I think it's so fascinating. Um, Eavesdropping on what books the universe wants me to read by way of other people's conversations, or like trying to make up stories about why is everyone in this room here together right now? What do we all have in common beyond this moment in time? I
Wow.
love airports and like bus stations for the same reason, but I would go with my notebook. I would scribble down my thoughts. I would actually start to write songs in coffee shops, and so that was a creative shift for me. I didn't have that space of inspiration anymore, and kind of had to create my own coffee shop at home, which wasn't quite the same, but it works.
Sure. So yeah, how did you deal with that?
um, Honestly, I raised my hand and say I was one of the many that probably did not do very well with COVID.
Well, I'd say a lot of us, if we're being honest, would join you in saying that.
I think that as a collective, it's probably brought us closer because of that. Um, it's been a necessary evil shift of society to realize that hey, we really are all in this together. Um, I tried to find the silver linings. I lost my coffee shops, but at least LA had clear air.
That is true. That is true. This is something we haven't seen since the 70s.
Exactly. So
Probably before that. All right. Well, any last words?
um, last words are gonna pitch myself real quick. After dark, if you guys want a song, hit me up on LinkedIn. During the day, I work for an agency called Wire Buzz. So if you're an enterprise business and need help with content creation, hit us up. We got you there.
All right. Well, very good. And feel free to elaborate on anything that you want because you've still got up to 5 minutes to pitch yourself, which you just kind of did in like 11 seconds, like any good marketer would. So what you just did here, I mean, this is representative in a way of what you're doing for businesses, right?
Yes.
Okay.
My big dream in life is to write songs for brands. This is like a reflection of my after dark music. So I would say I'm kind of an aspiring comedian. I write what you call pun songs, where every lyric is a play on words, and this was a little taste of that.
Right.
And I really like to translate that sort of wordplay to brands because I think there's a lot of catchy jingles, like when we talked about over decision anxiety. People are at the grocery store and like they're standing and they're looking at coffee, and then all of a sudden they're like, the best part of waking up, right? And
Mm-hmm.
get that like Folgers, and I recently we connected, I think, over I did a spec piece for Oatly,
Mm-hmm.
And that whole Super Bowl campaign with like, oh wow, no cow, I loved it. Like I loved to hate it because it got such a backlash. Like, oh, this was just such butt art, frankly. Like, and I loved it because it was right up there with like when Cards Against Humanity pulled that PR stunt a couple years ago with the Super Bowl and they ran a 30-spot potato ad. I don't know if you ever saw that, but like I just love shtick like that. But no, with songs, I think, if you write something that people have a response to, as much as I love the Oatly thing because it was shtick, I think that in the long run, people aren't going to want to listen to that hook. They're going to be like, oh, this is annoying. It's kind of like the head-on of songs. Like, oh, this is head-on. Apply it to your forehead. And I don't want to write forehead music. I want to write like third eye music that people actually want to like keep singing and hell, even dance to. So when the clubs open up, hopefully I will get a 30-second spot at a late night.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool. And I can only see that happening too. I love your creativity and with the talent that you've cultivated, there's no reason that you can't do this. So brands who are looking for more than just a jingle, we can't say just a jingle, but an anthem. Yes. Dang on it. An anthem. Call Kasen. Hook him up with him. LinkedIn, wherever. Is that the best place to find you? LinkedIn?
LinkedIn is the only social media that I am on right now. I actually deleted my other platforms during COVID. I needed that mental health break. I realized that I didn't need to go back. So I just have LinkedIn for business purposes as linkedin.com/in/Kasen James. And I am an open network, so anybody that wants to connect with me, just shoot me a message.
Fantastic. Well, I definitely encourage you to do that. Kasen is an awesome person, and thank you so much, Kasen, for coming on the show and spending some time with us today. We really appreciate that.
So much for having me, Lee. This was super awesome.
Absolutely. Now we are out of time, but if you found Lee After Dark more entertaining and relevant than the rest of the Drek out there, then subscribe to my daggone YouTube channel at leeafterdark.com. And I promise you, we're going to be getting back on Anchor FM, Google Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Pocket Rocket. Heck, I don't know. All those places that we keep saying we're going to. We've got somebody on it now. So within the next couple of weeks, we're going to have all of the episodes back up and running for you people who just want to listen. All right. Until next time, this is Lee Rowley with my good friend Kasen James. Be present and be well.